Today is May 9th, 2022, and I'm here with Ben Grant. So before we get into the questions that I've prepared, can you tell me just a little bit about why you were interested in sitting down to do this?
Yeah, thanks for having the conversation. This is a conversation about being elected to the school board in Portland, with the elections coming up in just a few weeks on June 14th. And it's a time of the year where there isn't a lot of attention on politics and campaigns. And I've done the usual things like get lawn signs and go door to door. But I thought that there would be fairly limited opportunities for people to actually hear me, hear my voice, hear sort of my personality come through, as opposed to just seeing my picture on a piece of paper or a write-up in the newspaper. There's just, it's a short amount of time, and it's a race that there's not a whole lot of attention on. So I wanted to produce something that would give people a little more of a window into who I am.
That's so great. Well, thank you so much. Yes, I'm glad the rest of the people will get to hear it, but I'm just personally excited to hear it.
That's great. I know you're a voter as well.
I'm a voter as well.
We met on the fields of PESA, and that's how I've connected to a lot of people, in fact, coaching kids in soccer.
Well, good on you, because those are the emails I delete, and I'm really glad that not everybody prescribes to that. So let's just get into it. Tell me a little bit about where you grew up and who you grew up with.
Sure. I'm an only child. My dad worked, he was in the computer business, so he was off a regular 9-to-5 job my whole upbringing. My mom actually went to seminary starting at the time that I was in first grade. So we went to elementary school, and she went to seminary at the same time. It took her just as long. She was on a slow burn to get it done, but she was eventually ordained as a minister, I think by the time I was in middle school. I grew up in Merrimack, New Hampshire, so now a very large suburban town between Nashua and Manchester in southern New Hampshire.
Tell me just a little bit about what you were like as a child and kind of what school was like for you. What did you do outside of school?
School came pretty easy to me. I was always pretty successful in school, and it was just sort of natural for me. I did well, finished near the top of my class in high school. I was more focused on sports. I was a year-round 3-sport athlete from the time I was 6 or 7. So basketball, soccer, and baseball was my true love at the time. Okay. So my social world was sort of built around team sports and being carted around to various fields and gyms around New Hampshire for many, many years. I enjoyed school. I loved reading. I was good at math at the time, although I haven't done any math since high school probably, because I'm in the law now. But no, my world kind of revolved around sports growing up.
Were your parents athletic? Did your parents coach?
They never coached. My dad played for a very famous high school basketball program in Maine. He's from Millinocket. The Stearns High School basketball team was a powerhouse back in the 60s, and he was part of that era. And then my mom was a huge baseball lover. I know that her father made her go out in the backyard when she was growing up and play catch and play pepper. And so she grew up as a huge baseball person. So I inherited that from her.
So walk me through, you're in high school, you played sports throughout high school. I'm assuming that college is kind of expected?
Yeah, I was just on a college track. There was never much discussion about it. It's what I wanted to do. And so I ended up going to Wesleyan University in Connecticut.
Why'd you choose Wesleyan?
I loved the campus. It's a sort of idyllic-looking New England college campus with a huge hill in the middle of campus, and the baseball field was right in the middle. And it was very good. Still is a very good liberal arts college, and it wasn't in New Hampshire, so I got to get away, but not too far away. And it's a place where I thought I'd be able to play some sports in college, and I actually ended up playing 1 year of baseball and then 3 years on the golf team.
When you went to college, did you have any idea what you wanted to study, what you were interested in?
I always loved history and politics. I ended up being a history major.
American history? Or?
Yeah, I focused on early American history in college. But I didn't know that going in. I just had some vague ideas of what I might want to do. I knew I wasn't a science person or a math person,
So you go to Wesleyan, I'm assuming you do well, but maybe have to work harder than you did in high school?
Yeah, I had to work hard to do okay there.
Yeah.
I met my wife at Wesleyan, and she was at the top of our class, and she is truly a hard worker and very smart. I was very smart and a decent worker, so I finished sort of in the middle of the pack, which was fine. I had a great time. I got good grades,
Yeah.
but you're in a much bigger pool there of really smart people.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I also developed my real interest in politics at Wesleyan. It's a very politically active campus. Had some great professors who taught me in that area.
So you meet your wife.
Right.
Do you want to tell any of that story?
Sure. My wife is Kate Gaynor, and she's from New London, Connecticut. And we actually didn't start dating until after college. So we were good friends and hung out a lot and stayed in touch after college. And that's when things got different. So
Got it.
mm-hmm.
Did you have any sense of what you wanted to do with your history degree?
Not with a degree, but
Yeah.
this is where politics really intervenes in my life. So my mom was a minister at a church in Hollis, New Hampshire at that time, and a member of her congregation was in the New Hampshire State Senate, and he decided to run for governor that year, and they just needed help. And I was available. I was about to graduate with nothing going on, and I thought, yeah, campaigning sounds like something I might want to try. So I got paid $300 a week to be a gopher for that campaign, and I learned a lot for a great man named Jim Squires, who ran for governor of New Hampshire in 2000.
And did you kind of catch the bug there? Was it
Totally caught the bug.
Yeah.
Totally caught the bug, especially because it's New Hampshire, which has a tremendous political history because of the New Hampshire primary.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just super active state. That campaign lost in the primary. I went on to work for a state senator in New Hampshire that fall who won his race. And through all that, I met some older fellows who had gone to Wesleyan and sort of wanted to take me under their wing and help me out, get started in whatever came next for me.
Yeah.
And like many good liberal arts majors, I didn't really have a direction and was thinking about law school because that's kind of a knee-jerk reaction for a lot of people in that situation. And they said, well, you don't have any lawyers in the family. You should go work at a firm somewhere and just see if it's something that you'd like to do. And they asked me, where do you want to go? And my cousin had lived in Portland for a few years by that time. He's a sports reporter for the Press Herald.
Okay.
So I kind of had Portland in mind, and both my parents are from Maine, so it was a way for me to kind of get back to the family's roots. So I said, who do you know in Portland? Turns out they knew somebody at a law firm in Portland, so I came here and just kind of worked as a grunt, shuffling documents around. At that point, I actually swore it off. I didn't have any interest. It was a white collar defense firm, and it wasn't what I wanted to do. So I got involved at that point in Maine politics, and that's how I spent the next 3 or 4 years before I actually did go to law school later.
Okay, so tell me what you did in terms of Maine.
Yeah, I got involved with the Maine State Senate. So I was a field organizer for the Senate Democrats in the 2002 cycle. And then we won the majority by the skin of our teeth. And in the 2004 cycle, I was the executive director for the Senate Democratic Campaign Committee. In between, I worked on staff in the legislature. So both inside the building, as they say, and outside.
Okay, and did you enjoy that work?
Love that.
Yeah.
I totally love that process. I love the interplay between campaigns and governing. It was a good time to be there, too, because Governor Baldacci had just been elected. It was the first Democrat who had been elected in 20 years or so by that time. Learned a lot about Maine. And, that set me on a course for sure.
So this is now we're talking like, what,
Early
2000s. And where is Kate at this point?
She worked in Boston for a little bit after college, but after we got together, she moved up here and got into the nursing program at USM.
Tell me how you moved from actively working in Maine politics. Did law school just feel like, okay, if I want to progress with politics, I've got to do the law part?
It's not quite like that. It's more that politics is not much of a career, especially as you begin to have a family, because it's so cyclical. Every 2 years, you're not sure what your job's going to be. Right. And the law is something you can do that survives the electoral cycle. But in addition to that, I really became involved with labor issues in the legislature. And that's what really piqued my interest about doing law school, is that I saw a purpose that really jived with my worldview and my politics, and that was to do the law for working people and for unions. And I ended up that's what I do now. I worked for a Senate president named Beth Edmonds, who had
Mm-hmm.
been chair of the Labor Committee and had a lot of labor legislation, which I helped her handle. And I got to meet folks from the labor movement in Maine, and it just something clicked. It's really what I became passionate about.
So you went into law school kind of knowing that that was going to
Yeah,
be your
exactly.
focus. So you graduate law school and then pass the bar.
Right,
And-
2008.
Okay, congrats.
Thank
And then what?
I went to work at the law firm that I'm at now, McTeague Higbee. It's a
Okay.
law firm in Topsom that has been involved in the labor movement for many, many years, since it was founded in the 70s, and has steady good practice in representing injured workers and workers' comp matters.
Yeah.
We do that statewide, and I just dug in and started as an associate there. The next critical thing that happened for me personally was Paul LePage won the 2010 gubernatorial election, which caused a huge domino effect of reshuffling on the Democratic side, including the opening up of the Democratic Party chair position. And at that moment, the folks in organized labor wanted to be more involved, more influential within the party. At that point, the AG was Janet Mills, and she lost her job when the Democrats lost the legislature in 2010. So to make a long story short, we got paired together, and we sort of ran as a ticket to run the Democratic Party, and we won, and I was the chair, and she was the vice chair. And so that got me right back in the middle of Maine politics, all the while practicing law. And I'm very fortunate to have a firm that's politically active, especially then and now, where that was not only just not only tolerated but embraced.
Yeah. And so I'm kind of trying to do the math in my head, because at that point, do you have kids? You must have at least one daughter?
Yes. My oldest was born in 2009.
Okay, so that's a busy
It
time.
was a busy time. And then my second was I did 4 years as the party chair.
Okay.
And my second was born in the middle of all that.
That's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot. But when you're passionate about something, it doesn't always feel like a lot.
Tell me what you enjoy about the labor law work that you do.
I like helping people who are underdogs, and in the area of labor law, almost every employee is an underdog, whether it's a union battling a heavily financed corporation or an individual battling an insurance company for their rights to benefits. So, yeah, there's a lot of the law that isn't glamorous or even interesting, but the satisfaction you can give somebody to establish their benefits or win a contract or something that they really couldn't do without you.
Yeah.
And that really shapes the next several years of their lives as well, because by definition, someone who sees me is almost always someone who's injured, and that has a big impact on their family. So give them that bridge to whatever comes next is really satisfying,
Right.
personally, but also I know it's super valuable for the community.
Let me just get back to kind of that 2009, 2010 time when you're politically very involved. You are a lawyer, you've got 2 young kids. And when your kids then become school age, did you always think they're going to go to public school? Was there any question? Talk to me about
there
that.
is no question.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the reasons we live in Portland is it's a place that's, in Maine anyway, most similar to where Kate grew up, which is New London, Connecticut, which is a very mixed city, I think. New London was probably a third African American, a third Hispanic, a third white. And it was important to her and to me to have our kids go to diverse schools. We have that here in Portland in spades. So it was a no-brainer for us. So we're both products of the public schools. Her father was a longtime social studies teacher in the public schools where she grew up. And he eventually ran the adult ed program in New London. So we have public education as sort of in our
Yeah.
bloodlines.
Tell me about why you're interested in becoming part of the school board.
I spent a lot of my life working on behalf of other elected officials, so I've seen it up close. I've seen what you can do with it, the opportunity you have. I've also seen the missteps that a lot of people have made, and I think I've seen a lot of the missed opportunities that others have made. And I think I'm at a point in my life where I'd like to put that experience to work for my community. I think I can do the job well. I think I have a good sense of Portland and its schools and how we can continue to make some progress. I think you also get to a point where, I'm borrowing this from somebody else, but you can either be a producer or a consumer, right? I've spent a lot of time consuming politics, and I have the urge to produce more. I want to be on the other side of things where I can make decisions for our community.
What's unique to you that you would bring to the school board?
I think it's my background. I just bring a unique set of experiences to this in terms of government itself. There are people on the school board now who have wildly different life experiences and have faced way more challenges. I don't want to portray myself that way, but I certainly have done a lot with government, and I think I've got a sense for how it works and how you can make it work better. Combine that with the schools themselves. I mean, my kids have had a very good experience in Portland schools. I'm a huge champion for them, and I know that they need to get better so that everyone has that same experience and that we're fulfilling the goals and the destinies of all the kids that come through Portland schools.
Tell me about how you imagine yourself working with other people on a school board that have diverse, different backgrounds, educations, life experiences than you do.
Yeah, I'm excited to do that. I think I'm pretty self-aware about what I know and what I don't know, and what I'm going to need from others and what others might need from me. I think I can really help people with strategy, whether it's within the city or within the state. I think I'm pretty good at plotting out how to get from A to Z if we have a policy problem that we need to fix. But I certainly don't know the whole community. I have my own social circles and do things with soccer and with one or two of the schools, and I know there's a lot of Portland that I need to learn about and learn from others. When you work in the law, you work in a collaborative environment. Even though it is adversarial, you're always working with somebody else to end a case or to solve a problem. So I don't have any hesitation about that aspect of it. I'm eager to learn from the other people on the board, and I think the board right now shares a lot of the same values in terms of what type of progress we need to make. So I'm eager to get involved and be one of the 9 people who are moving it forward. I think I am a big picture person. I've told people who were interested in me running initially that I want to come and help do some big things. I mean, there's a lot of people, and there's a lot of great people who work on that granular level of detail, but we've got some big things that need to get done. I think I can really contribute to that. In the last several years, Portland Public Schools have been able to spend a lot more money in the school system. There are millions of more dollars into the schools now than there were maybe, let's say, certainly 10 years ago, but maybe even 5 years ago. We need to make sure that we're being accountable to the goals that have been set in terms of progress. We have this large achievement gap. So between the kids at the high end and the kids at the lower end, it's a big spread, and it's largely reflects race and socioeconomic status. We have to keep closing that gap, and we need to make sure that the things that have been put in place by the current school administration are working. I think they are. I've been shown some data that there are some grass shoots there, and if that's the case, we can defend spending more on schools because we can say, look, it's working. The other thing we really have to confront is the population issue in the schools. I mean, that's still on a population decline. I think from maybe 10 years or so ago, there's 1,000 less kids, 500 to 1,000 less kids in public school in Portland than there were. And that's a vicious cycle that will only end up hurting us because of how schools are funded. One of the things I want to dig into right away is what are the reasons? What is the city, not just the schools, but the city at large? So what are they doing, to arrest that problem? I was on the commission that the school department formed a few years ago to study the facilities, and we ended up recommending not closing any elementary schools. There's some notion that we could do something at the high school level. But what was really striking to me is that Portland has enough babies born in Portland to keep the school population high, but we lose too many families between birth and kindergarten. And I don't know what efforts are being made to recruit or retain people, but that's something that I think we should be doing, not just the schools. I mean, that's a citywide problem. You've got to have strong, vibrant schools that have a strong, vibrant community. We need to do a better job of keeping people here in the city. It's got to be related to housing as well. I don't want to put my head in the sand. It's a place to live. That's why it's a city issue, not just a school issue.
So you've got 2 girls in 2 different public schools in Portland.
Right, King Middle School and Ocean Ave Elementary.
Let's imagine that you have a friend from out of town that's moving to Portland with 2 school-age kids that are going to go to 2 different Portland schools. What would you tell your friend about what you feel like the strengths of the schools are and what the challenges are?
I think the strengths are that unique among cities or towns in this area. We really have the whole package when it comes to academics, culture, social life. Getting kids into that melting pot as early as possible, it can only help with their development in the long run. So that's what I would sell people on. And I see it through my kids, a great experience for them to have someone from another halfway across the world show up and be in their class and get to know them.
Let's imagine you're elected to the school board. What do you hope that your lasting impact is?
I'd like to see the next few years really accelerate the changes that have been made and the progress that's been started under Superintendent Botana and the recent school boards. We need to see that progress come faster. I think that will help us with our school population problems, but also, just as a society, as a culture of Maine, we need more kids coming out of schools that are better educated so that they're not everyone's on the college track, but so that they're on some track. We can't afford to have kids come out of Portland schools with no future, no direction, right? And that's every kid that comes through the schools needs a place to go, place in society, needs a place in the city if possible. It's really about, can we do what we're doing, but can we do it better? Can we do it faster? Every delay in progress is, some kids are sacrificed to that, because if something is slated to happen 5 years from now, that's 5 years of kids that go through that haven't had the benefit of that change. So how can we make that a 2-year plan instead of a 5-year plan or whatever it is? And look, I don't want to come in like I know everything. I mean, maybe things are going as fast as they possibly can, or maybe it really is a resource issue. If we could find some more money somewhere, they could advance it, and maybe the staff is doing everything they can right now. I just don't know. I don't want to make it seem like I know what's going on with it, under the hood at Portland Public Schools, but I want to get in there and find out pretty quickly, and because the schools we're answerable to all the citizens and the voter. They need to have confidence that what's being spent is being spent well.
When you think about people kind of getting to know their school board candidates, what's important for people to know about you?
Well, Portland politics have gotten contentious and hard fought over the last few years. I think it's important to know that you can be a progressive politician, a progressive public official, and still be a good listener and be respectful of others and still hold firm in your beliefs. We've got a lot of great people in city council and on the school board now who are all kind of reading from the same values playbook in terms of what the city needs to look like and do over the next few years, and I think we can do it. I think I can bring an experience in politics where we can do the politics better as well. I can represent people who don't agree with me, but I can also, really stand firm for a progressive vision for the city. I hope I can help be a bridge to a new era of politics in Portland. Yeah, you got to try. I'm not saying I've done this perfectly over my career. I certainly haven't, but you got to try hard to not burn bridges. You never know who you're going to need tomorrow. So it's a combination of asserting what you believe about what needs to happen, how to make that happen, but doing it in a respectful way.
Well, before we wrap up, is there anything else that you want to make sure that we capture?
I hope people who hear this and want to talk to me more can find me on Facebook or on my campaign webpage, benjaminKgrant.com. And if you just search Grant for School Board on Facebook, you'll find me. And hopefully people will go out to vote on the 14th of June.
Well, Ben, thank you so much. It was a pleasure getting
this was a great
chat with you and learn a little bit about your life, and good luck in June.
Awesome. Thank you.